Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today's video is going to be all about legs. Now, admittedly, my leg tips and leg training is a little bit unconventional, maybe a little bit controversial, but again, this is just my personal experience, things that have worked for me. And today I can confidently look at myself and say that my legs are definitely my strong suit on my physique. So if you are looking to build bigger legs, you're definitely going to want to tune into this one. Starting out with, if you are living mostly a sedentary lifestyle, you do not want to just jump straight into intense, heavy leg days, all right? I think a lot of this comes down to prioritizing flexibility, mobility, muscle imbalances to make sure that you're actually able to handle the demands of training legs and being able to do it consistently over the long run. It is very common to see people injure themselves doing heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, and a lot of times the form is not necessarily the problem as much as it is that their muscles are just not in a position ready to handle that load. All right, when it comes to training legs, all right, if there is one thing that you could take away from this video, it is this. This is my formula for bigger legs, okay? Number one, maximum range of motion with as heavy a weight as possible. Now, this doesn't mean go as heavy as possible, because generally speaking, when most people go as heavy as possible, they sacrifice the range of motion, all right? You want to make sure that you are doing slow, controlled reps, okay? But I've always been a huge proponent, especially on squats, of squatting well below parallel, ass to grass, as they say, with as much weight as possible, and also for higher reps. Yeah, it's very fatiguing. Your heart rate's going to get up there. Your nervous system is going to be very tired. I do essentially really long sets where I say I'm going to do this weight for 20 reps. And I will take as many breaks as I need to get to 20 reps, 25 reps a lot of the time. That's not very common for most people to train legs that way. However, I have noticed incredible gains from training this way, from just getting as much of a stimulus and as much volume on the muscle as possible. And I know a lot of people are not going to necessarily be able to handle that, considering the demands that they have from, regular day-to-day life, okay? So you just kind of got to find what works for you. But again, recovery, nutrition, pre and post-workout meals and carbohydrates and high protein is all going to help you with your leg workout. It's going to help you maximize the amount of time that you are spending in the gym. Now, when it comes to training legs, of course, you want to make sure you are progressive overloading, especially with your compound movements. So on a quad day, that could look like a back squat, barbell back squat, or a pendulum squat or hack squat. On a hamstring and glute day, you could do deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats, whatever the case may be. Just make sure that you are writing down what you're doing and you are progressive overloading over time. That's one of the best ways to ensure that you are actually making progress. Now, when it comes to legs, in my opinion, 3 days a week, if you're really trying to prioritize. Now, a lot of people are not necessarily going to be able to recover from that, which brings me to my next point, which is free weights versus machines for leg training. Anytime that you're doing a free weight movement when it comes to legs, whether it be a barbell back squat or a conventional deadlift, you are going to be compressing the spine to some degree, and that spinal compression is going to be producing a lot of nervous system fatigue. And a lot of times that can impact recovery for your next leg workout or for your next workouts. So I would say if you want to train legs 3 times a week, or even maybe 2 to 3 times a week, I would actually prioritize machines. Machines are going to decrease the amount of nervous system fatigue, and they're also going to decrease the demand of using your stabilizer muscles, which is then going to allow you to use more controlled movements, potentially slower reps, which will then result in more time under tension and all that good stuff, more leg hypertrophy. Now, of course, if you're, in your first 1, 2, 3 years of lifting and you're trying to get your numbers up, by all means, squats and deadlifts are a great way to do it. However, I do think if you want to see the best bang for your buck, and then also be able to actually recover for all your leg workouts, you're going to see most of the benefit from sticking to machines over free weights. Now, if you do decide to do machines, all right, let's say I'm doing a pendulum squat for my main movement, I will actually do a pre-exhaust. If I'm doing a quad day, I'll do a pre-exhaust before my pendulum squat. So I'll do calves, and then I'll take my leg extension to failure, maybe 3 or 4 sets of 20 to 25 reps, and then I'll go into my pendulum squat. And it's going to force me to go a lot lighter on the pendulum squat. It's going to force me to control the weight a lot more, but I'm still feeling all that tension on the quad muscle. And it's just a really great way to switch up the workouts. Again, you don't have to do this. A lot of times people will start with their main compound movement and then do their isolations afterwards. But I personally found the best results by doing it this way. And then again, going as heavy as I can for as many reps as I can with as much range of motion as possible. Just getting as much stress on the muscle as humanly possible is going to guarantee that you are actually seeing good leg growth. As far as the king of leg exercises, everybody says it's squats, and I have to disagree on that. Personally, I think the Bulgarian split squat is a fantastic leg exercise. If there's one exercise that you should be doing every single leg workout to see the most amount of progress, it is going to be the Bulgarian split squat. You're working your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes. the amount of just brutal muscle damage you're causing to your legs is second to none. And then you're also going to be working muscle imbalances from left to right side. So if you're not doing Bulgarian split squats, would highly recommend you can do them on dumbbells with a bench, or you could do it with a Smith machine. Now, of course, with dumbbells, the challenge then becomes holding the dumbbells as you start increasing weight. So I actually do it on a Smith machine because it's a lot more controlled and it allows me to load it much heavier. And then of course, guys, you can't skip calves. All right, summertime, we want to bring out, you know, show the quads, show the hamstrings, right? Short shorts, whatever the case may be. But calves honestly add so much to the lower body as well. Now, when it comes to rep range, I kind of already touched on this, but 8 to 15-ish reps for the main compound movement. And then I would push isolation exercises to 20 to 25 reps with a lot of drop sets or rest pause or other intensity techniques. Again, this is not necessary if it's your first 1, 2, 3 years of lifting, but if you're a little bit more advanced, you really want to make sure that you are trying to train harder every single session and really put yourself through the ringer, guys. You know, in these moments in time where I was really making a lot of progress in my legs, I would sit in the car for like 20 minutes before a leg workout, just dreading what I was about to put myself through. And honestly, I trained so hard, probably too many times, to the point of complete exhaustion, to the point where I'm about to vomit. But ultimately, that's what was driving the progress. And then I would go home and I'd eat a pound of ground beef, which probably is not ideal, but it's what I was doing and it was working, right? And so I think a lot of times, you know, if you're training to 12 reps and then stopping, you're training to 15 reps and then you're stopping, you're just leaving a lot of gains on the table. And I think most people don't really realize how hard they are able to push, how hard it is necessary to push on leg days to really build that muscle. You really want to make sure that you are training intensely, but also training high reps. And a lot of times people will say you can't do both. Well, you can do both. All right. You can do both. All right. Trust me, train hard, train high reps. If you need to take rests in your sets, do that. All right. Whatever it takes to get as much stress as possible onto the legs is going to be great. 1 time a week for maintenance, I would say. If you're going twice a week, coming from 1 time a week, that could be a good way to make some gains, but ideally 3 times a week. Not forever, but I think if you're trying to really prioritize legs, that's pretty much going to be a good way to make sure that you're seeing the greatest gains possible. All right, cannot neglect nutrition. You want to make sure that you're fueling your workouts with plenty of calories, plenty of protein, plenty of carbs, all right? Pre-workout carbs, post-workout carbs, intra-workout carbs if you need it, electrolytes if you're training outside. Leg training is demanding. People oftentimes wonder why leg workouts are always so much more difficult. Well, it's because you're working much bigger muscles, okay? The quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, these are all much bigger muscles than the biceps, triceps, and shoulders. They're going to demand more energy. They're going to demand more fuel. And you want to make sure that you are not skipping out on the nutrition aspect of it, because you're only going to be shooting yourself in the foot if you're not able to fuel these workouts properly. And then lastly, we got to talk on genetics. I made a video on arms a few weeks ago. All right, I mentioned that I was not gifted with great arm genetics. However, when it comes to legs, I've always been lower body dominant. All right, ever since before I stepped foot in the gym, my legs have just always been bigger than my upper body. And a lot of that just has to do with genetics. Some people are going to do a better job of putting on muscle in certain places than others. And ultimately, this whole game is about optimizing and doing the best that you can do. And oftentimes what might work for me might not work for the next person, but I do feel like the skeleton and the tried and true basics of leg training remain the same. You just got to find what works for you, okay? It's not really as much as it is about finding a perfect exercise or finding the perfect split, but just training hard and adjusting, listening to your body, finding what works for you is always going to be the best way to grow any body part, right? Not just the legs. So you got to remember, this is all about, training hard, recovering well, doing it consistently, showing up week after week, month after month. All right, ditch the phone for leg days, guys. It's time to lock in. It's time to really push yourself, and leg days should be harder than any other day of the week. So if you're really trying to maximize your leg gains, definitely make sure that y'all are incorporating these tips. All right, that is going to be it for me, guys, on training legs, and I hope y'all are able to take away a thing or two. All right, y'all, that is what I would call a complete leg day. I'm going to go ahead and end the video right here. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate you. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, thinking something out of my...
All right, everybody, that is what I would... Shit. All right, y'all, that is what I would... Are you going?
Yeah.
Okay. You're making me nervous, bro.
I'm just gonna keep rolling it.